How you doing, Jimmy?
No, you are good. I'm doing. I'm a little tired.
Actually, that looks better than the one Kid ordered.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the one Kid ordered, man, it was weird. It was like a slab of mozzarella
Oh, right.
on it,
Okay.
you know. So it was a lot of meat because he wanted to throw a lot on top. That actually looks better.
Okay, so this is it.
All right, so Chicago, there's your last chance.
Like sausage or cheese?
I'll do like one of each. All right, so we get the full Chicago experience. Thank you very much, ma'am.
I'll do the same, one of each. See how it goes.
All right, so far what I have a Kit, it wasn't bad, but it was not as good as New York's Nona slice. Now,
Okay,
Jimmy,
thank
you had the Nona.
I had the Nona.
You had the Nona. So what's your opinion?
The Nona was great. You know, I didn't have it fresh out of the oven, right? So it was one of those where they preheated, so that's not ever the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, should I use the
but
fork
I
and a
liked
knife?
I liked it. Yeah, I do. I do it for this.
Yeah, this doesn't look like it would handle well.
We're doing sausage or cheese?
Cheese.
So this is so is this like a nostalgic experience for you because you grew up here?
Yeah, I haven't had this in such a long time. When I first moved to LA, they fly it out in dry ice.
Right.
And then I would warm it up or in my oven.
You flew it out?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell you the story about your one friend who didn't want you to heat it in the oven?
So my roommate, Jackie Flynn, great guy, but he's very pushy, right? And he wants what he wants, you know? And so he didn't want to wait, because it comes frozen in dry ice, and he didn't want to wait that long. And he's like, Jimmy, put it in the microwave. It'll thaw out. I go, Jack, I'm not putting this in the microwave. It costs $60 to get it flown here. This is 30 years ago.
Right.
I go, check. He goes, just put it in for 5 minutes. I go, I'm not putting it in the mic. Just go to the. And he just kept. I go, check it. I'm not putting it in the mic. So no, I didn't put it in the microwave.
Yeah, you can't microwave pizza. It ruins it. All right, so
I think this is the king of deep dish in Chicago. Pequods is not pizza.
yeah, so some people were telling me Pequods.
They're wrong. And I'm 100%. I don't want to say, well, to each his own. That's not pizza. What Pequods is doing is
What is
not.
it?
It's focaccia.
Ah, I see.
It's focaccia. And so if you think, so what I love this is the crust here, the butter crust they have here. Pizzeria Uno, Giordano's also great. But I think this has the best crust. I'm really enjoying this. How is this? Is it better than the one you had the other day? Or about the
This
same?
is much better than the one I had with Ken.
Okay.
So I don't know why that was. Like, if it seems like they made it really differently than this. Yeah, I don't know why. Like the mozzarella, maybe it's because it was delivered, but it was still hot. Like it was almost like hard. It was like a hard sheet of mozzarella on there. This is definitely better. Look, this is what I always said about it with Chicago. In general, like overall, in New York, you have such a wide variety of food that is done well that your palate can get really bored in other cities, because you do have other cities that do certain things very well. They specialize in certain things. But broadly, you can't get the range of food that you're used to. Chicago is one of the very few exceptions. Except for, and I hesitate to say this, somebody, because it's 30.
It's great. Thank you.
Very good.
You guys some extra napkins.
It's 30 years ago I lived here. It might have changed, but somebody told me it didn't, but that's one person. The Chinese food sucked when I lived here. That was something I just gave up Chinese food when I lived in Chicago. Awful.
I knew where to go. I did brickwork in Chinatown, and again, this is 35 years ago, and we were working in the alley, and had to rebuild. It doesn't matter. But all day, we saw how they got their food. Guys would show up, open their trunk, they'd have chickens in their trunk, and they'd come out. And I was like, it made me not want to eat in Chinatown for a long time. It was not sanitary. And but I do love a good shrimp and a lobster sauce.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's old school, man.
Yeah.
That's what I call Ralph Cramden Chinese food.
Yeah.
Alice, we're going out for Chinese! It's the sweet, sticky spare ribs. All of that.
What do you get?
It depends. If I'm in Queens, there is still a couple of places around that do the Ralph Cramden Chinese food. And if I'm in one of those places, I will do the classic. I will do the egg roll, the spare ribs, the wonton soup. If I'm in Manhattan, if I'm in Chinatown, I'll do more of the authentic stuff. I'll do more hot pots, things like that.
What's that?
It's like a soup. Kind of, it's more what they actually eat. Like really over the last, I don't know, 20, 25 years, it used to be the only kind of Chinese food you could get was that Chinese food that was invented in America. Now, particularly in Manhattan, it's almost entirely, there was a move towards doing stuff that they actually eat in China. That's most of what you're going to find in Chinatown today. You almost, if you go to Chinatown and you order that shit, you almost feel embarrassed. They're gonna think you're a tourist, man. Like if you order the wonton soup, they're gonna be like, yeah, okay. I work with a Chinese guy on the horse and carriage. He would take me, because we work the night shift, he would take me at 4 o'clock in the morning to Chinese restaurants down a flight of stairs in an alley.
Oh, really?
Where they had shit that as authentic as they might have gotten, fish stomach soup, like things that you had no idea existed.
I like the cheese better.
So, yeah, I mean, this is what I always said with Chicago pizza. It's not like when you go to pizza in most other places, it's a fucking war crime. Like it's like bowling alley pizza, most places that you go. Like this is real pizza, it's just a different style.
Right.
Like that crust, like this, what do you call it, a butter crust?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing. So yeah, like if you like that New York crust, it has a distinct kind of taste, that char taste that has. You're gonna miss that, but it's not like, it's apples and oranges, just two different things. I can't say one's better than the other.
I've been here all week next door looking at like, when am I going to have that pizza? Because I've been still doing just the one meal a day here, but today's the first day I'm doing an early meal. And it's good to, as my trainer Howie tells me, that it's good to trick your body. You don't want to do, if you just do one meal all the time, it'll slow down your metabolism, so you want to.
Right. So that's what you do? You just eat the dinner?
Yeah.
But right now you're tricking?
This is me tricking my body. But I have I start every meal with the chia seeds, about 3 tablespoons, in water, soak it for 5 minutes, and then I eat that.
Oh, yeah?
It's got so many good things. First of all, it's great for your digestion. It's great. It's got protein. It's got fiber. That's the most important thing. You know, you get to be our age, you got to have fiber.
I like their crust.
Yeah, the crust.
Yeah, it's good. It's just like, it's a different thing. It's almost like more cakey in a way, this crust. And New York crust is just, it's more that char on the
Right.
bottom. And it's got more of a snap.
When I was a kid, they opened a Giordano's near our house. And that was like the classy place to go for pizza. I was like, oh, we're going to Giordano's. I go on dates, take a girl to Giordano's. That was before I knew how to tip.
They must have loved you.
I would tip 10% or whatever, but then I dated a waitress, and I figured out, oh, I should tip more.
Yes. Yes. But you must have known a lot of people in the service industry now.
Bricklayers.
I mean, from being a comedian, I knew all the, bartenders and waitresses and waiters and stuff. And that's when I figured it out. When I became a comedian.
I mean, look, I'm from a Jewish family. And there's certain stereotypes about restaurants. That was definitely true of my family. Not too close to a window, not too far from, not too close to the kitchen. It's too drafty, it's too salty, sending things back. And then, if you would never behave that way in restaurants if you know anyone who works in a restaurant. Because those folks eat a lot of spit, and they have no idea how much spit they're eating when they go to a restaurant. I mean, as a result of knowing waiters, I've never sent anything back to the kitchen.
Really?
Yeah, if it's that bad, I just won't finish it. I'll leave. I will never send something back.
I worked in the industry. I never had that experience. I was a food server. I never ever saw that happen.
No?
No, never.
Maybe you know a better class of server than I do.
Oh. Yeah, one was a pie shop and one was a real nice fish steakhouse.
All right, listen, man. I know.
I never saw that.
I don't want Mike is with me. Listen. I mean, this is on your YouTube channel. I guess I can get away with this. I knew a guy who had a special portion of potato salad that he jerked off with, that he would give to the customers that he didn't like.
I just want to show this again. No, you're good. I just want them to see what they're eating.
The fish, baby. Where are we?
Lou Malnati's.
I'm on the sausage slice now. Sausage is very good. The meats in Chicago are really good. They make very good meats here. That's another thing. New Yorkers, we eat a lot of cold cuts. And other places, very often, they don't make them properly.
Well, I took him to Langer's.
That was good.
Yeah,
Langer's was good.
He was good for Langer's.
And what's the opinion on knife and fork, since the chat is all about it? I'm having another piece. Eating pizza with a knife and fork.
It's deep dish, so I like to eat it with
it's a whole different type of pizza. It's just not, you couldn't fold this.
Can I have a bite of that?
So
I cut it in half.
if you do this with a New York pizza, you get made fun of forever. Bill de Blasio did that very early in his term.
Yes.
And they made fun of him for the rest of his term for eating a New York, because why would you eat a New York slice that way? This is almost like a pie. Like, that's what I always say about the Chicago deep dish. They took the pizza pie thing literally.
Yeah, they call it a pie.
They made it a pie. They literally made a pie out of it.
Jimmy, will you talk about where you grew up? Or we're asking, where did you grow up?
I grew up on the southwest side of Chicago, in right by Midway Airport, And that was before anybody actually used Midway Airport.
Oh yeah, you used to go play there, right?
We would go hang out there when I was a kid.
It was empty.
It was empty.
Huh.
And now it's huge.
So Jimmy, is it true that your father was the president of a bricklayer company that later gave it to you? And
That's so funny. My dad was a cop, and in the summer he would do a second job. He got side jobs doing brickwork, tuck
Right.
pointing, chimney repair, glass block windows, and we had this ancient truck from like the 50s, and it was hard, dirty work, man. But you know, my dad had to find a way to make more money. He had 12 kids, and for some reason, now I was like, man, why you couldn't pick an easier, like. I wish he was like a carpenter or something, you know? Like, I'd like to learn that.
so was he the president of this company?
He was the president, vice president, CEO. It was just him,
Well, who were his employees?
his kids. That was it. But we didn't have a company. It was called Triangle Building. And he had a truck. That was it. And we parked it in the garage. And we rented out the garage. There was a widow on the corner of our block, and so she had an empty garage. So my dad paid her money so we could put our equipment in her garage. Otherwise, we wouldn't have any place to put our ladders and material and stuff like that. And that was it. That was the whole. It was run out of my.
But okay, so like, wasn't it like when you were 15, you got a sweet job on the boardwalk?
So all my brothers would have to go to work with my dad, and I didn't want to. Because it's hard work, man, out in the sun all day, cement in your face. I didn't want to do it. And so my mom kind of babied me more than the other brothers, because I was the youngest. And so, like when you're 16, you're supposed to go to work with
Right.
your dad.
Right.
And maybe even 15. And so I got a job selling hot dogs and soda and stuff at the Oak Street Beach, which is right down the street from here.
Right.
And I loved it. And my brothers thought I was soft, you know, and I didn't care.
What were you selling?
I was selling hot dogs and sodas and things in like a little stand. And then I got to sell them at the Bears game too. But that was just one summer. And then my dad was like, that's it, that's all over. You're coming to work. And I was like, oh, Jesus.
Well, why? You were making money.
They needed an employee. They needed a guy to mix the cement. I started at the lowest rung, and so they needed someone, and I was it. And so I was like the grunt. I mixed the cement. That was the first one. They're all sitting around having their coffee in the morning, and I'm out there mixing the cement by hand in a wheelbarrow. We didn't have a cement mixer where you pour it in and it spins. We didn't have that. We had a wheelbarrow, and I had to mix it by hand. And you have to get 2 big buckets of sand. You have to clear everything off the truck. You have to go get 2 big buckets of sand. Then you get a bucket of cement, and then you get a quarter bucket of Portland cement. And then you have to pull it 4 times to make it mix. Then you add the water slowly. Then you have to. It's hard. It was hard. Then you have to put it in buckets, and you have to carry the buckets of cement to the workers, or they're usually on a wall on a scaffold. And that was your job to make sure that they always had cement. You know, they called it mud. You had to get a bucket of mud.
Mud, yeah.
And, I remember one time we were working in Bridgeport, where we did a show Friday, we were working on a 3-flat, and I had to carry the cement up 3 flights of stairs. And then when you got up on the roof, it was so hot, the tar roof was melty, and then you stuck your. Right. It was hard. I still remember that job. Wow, that was a hard job.
Okay, where are you two enjoying pizza right now?
We're at Lou Malnati's on Rush, State and Rush, Rush and Cedar.
And what kind of pizzas did you have?
I got
today?
the deep dish, Lou Malnati's deep dish cheese, half sausage.
And what did you decide you liked?
Cheese.
Really?
Yeah.
I like the sausage.
I like the cheese.
I think I liked them both the same.
Okay.
It was very good. It was very good.
Okay, one bite, everybody knows the rules.
If my fairy godmother came down and said, "Hey, you can only have this kind of pizza for the rest of your life," I'd be all right. I'd be all right. I still prefer New York, but I'll concede that's just a regional bias.
What about New Haven style pizza? What do you think of that?
I've never had that. You know what's? All my travels within the country have been west and south, not really north. I don't really go around the north. Just now, I visited a friend because he bought a house in New Hampshire. It was the first time I was ever in New Hampshire.
Really?
And they drove me up to Maine for lobster. I had never been to Maine either.
Oh, really?
All right, Jimmy, for the audience, tell them how you reheat pizza.
So if you're gonna reheat pizza,
No microwave.
you get a pan, you get some extra virgin olive oil, single source, which is what I get right from Italy. Because otherwise, a lot of your extra virgin olive oil is adulterated, as they say.
Right.
They put shit in it, like shitty olive oil, which is not extra virgin. Extra virgin meaning they take the olives and they cold press it. And the extra virgin is the first oil that comes out of the first cold pressing. Then they press it again, and then that's just called olive oil. And then they heat it up and press it to get the last bit out, and then that's called light olive oil. They try to make you think it's healthy. It's not. It's just shitty olive oil. So you got to make sure you get the extra virgin. And then I put some in the pan, and I heat it up, maybe medium heat. I put the slice of pizza on the olive oil. I take an ice cube. I put it not on the pizza, next to the pizza in the pan, and then I put a lid on it. And so you get a crispy crust, and then as that ice cube melts, it creates a steam, and that cooks the top of the pizza. So and honestly, it tastes better than when it's fresh. Because you get that olive oil taste. If it's a good olive oil, you get that amazing olive oil taste in the crust, which I love.
And that pizza was 3 days old.
We had pizza that was at least 3 days old, and I heated it back up. And it was great when it was fresh. There's this place down the street from me that does really good pizza. I had to look for it. But better tasted when I warmed it up with the olive oil. So that's the way you do it.
All right, now you remember, because you were talking about the oil, that reminded me. Remember when we were kids, all the mothers cooked with like Crisco and Wesson? Like we never heard of olive oil, man. Like nobody cooked it. Everybody cooked with like that.
It was Wesson.
Yeah. Wesson and Crisco.
Yep, that was the two. That was it.
Jimmy, do you remember anything? Miles sent me a text about long cock.
That's the supplement we've been selling on Rumble.
So you had to be. It's one of those jokes that you had to be there. And my dad, instead of calling, if you have a hose that comes out of your house, like on the wall, you call it the spigot or the water spout.
Right.
My dad called it a silcock. That's what he called it. So maybe that's the technical term for it, a silcock, but no one except my father called it a silcock.
All right. Look, man, I'm splitting the last piece with Mike here. That's how good it is.
Do you want to?
I have a little more.
Oh, Jimmy's gonna do it.
You have to do the what's his name? Do the bite and do the review.
Okay,
Portnoy, Dave Portnoy.
one bite, everybody knows the rules.
There we go.
And then he takes 3 bites.
It's what they call doing the silk cock.
And you can tell when Dave's gonna like a pizza because he kind of cocks his head to the left.
Oh, you have to tell.
A little like this. That's his
got
tell.
it.
And I mean, I give this pizza. There's at least a 9.2. I mean, it's deep dish. It's a different kind of pizza, and as far as deep dish goes, I think it's the best deep dish.
Now
It's very good.
Now you're blasphemous because you used your hands to do Portnoy.
I know.
This is the first time I've had it. We haven't come here before.
You've never had this? Did you like it?
Yes, I did. I was glad I didn't have to wait till 8:30 to eat.
No, it's very good here, even when I lived here, and it's still good. I don't know about when you were growing up. The Mexican food. When I lived here, New York hadn't caught up because our Latin people tended at that time to be from Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. So we didn't really have really good Mexican food, but Chicago did when I lived here. It still does.
I lived in Pilsen when I started comedy, which at that time was a Mexican neighborhood, and it's since been gentrified, but it was, very affordable. A lot of comedians and artists lived there, and there was this Mexican place right down the street. We would go once a week. The comedians would have a lunch. The comedians that lived in that neighborhood
Right.
for the Tonight Show, head writer for the Tonight Show. He still opens for Jay all the time. His whole thing is he does crowd work. He's really good at it.
Okay.
But his brother was a comedian here in Chicago. Nice guy, very nice guy, funny guy. We used to all get together, Steve Seaver and him, a couple other guys, and we'd have Mexican food once a week. It was great. It was good Mexican food.
Chicago was the first place I ever had frog legs at a Mexican place.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Tastes like chicken, right?
it was very good. I think it was in Old Town.
Can I remove this for you, sir? You want me to leave it?
Yeah, could I actually get another one?
Another coffee?
Yep, thank you.
Big question, gentlemen. What announcement is RFK Jr. going to make tomorrow?
I think he's going to drop out, and I think he's going to endorse Trump. I think he's really upset at the Democrats. And, it's not like he's got anything to lose. They all hate him anyway. I think he thought that he was going to be able to really endear himself to the Democratic base. And no, not happening. Like I don't think he understood how. I mean, he's been slandered ever since he started on his vaccine crusade, and he's right about it. By the way, there's very few things he says about vaccine and the vaccine schedule that's not correct. And he was a hero for years of the left because he got the Hudson cleaned up, and he's good at suing corporations and
I was saying, I will give this to him because, I took those kayak classes over the summer, and credit where credit is due. The reason you have kayakers out there on the Hudson now, where you're not afraid you're going to get E. coli, is because of RFK. That is true.
And I think there was even more to it than that. It was like PCBs, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, it was nasty. It was like,
Yeah.
you would never have taken a kayak out there before.
Yeah.
No.
And he's sincere about it. He's sincere about his. If you hear the story about how he got involved with the vaccine deal, that these women would keep coming up to him at these whenever he would give a speech and wanting to talk to him about it, and he's like, I'm not, you know. So finally, some woman kind of got to him and said, just read this stuff, right? Just read these studies, read this. So he went home and he read it, and he said, well, I couldn't unread it. You know, you can't not see what you already saw. And so then he felt a duty. And so that's when he started on his crusade. And I'm telling the truth as he saw it. And people just thought he was a kook. It's so crazy. The same people who would do protests against GMO in your food thought he was crazy about the vaccine thing. I was like, what? So, and those same people who like Neil Young, who would do protests about GMOs, and the man was out there telling you got to get your COVID
The vaccine.
vaccine.
Yep.
What is wrong? Like, what?
Yeah, they all went back to Spotify. They all went back.
Yep.
And I bet you none of them are on their 10th booster, because that's what they're supposed. Even Fauci, when he got it, he was not on his 10th booster.
Well, I just saw an article today that they're rushing out a new version because of the surge right now.
Oh, they're trying to scare
which is going to be very safe and effective.
Yeah. They're trying to scare everybody again about COVID. They're like, look at all these extra cases everywhere. It's like, I didn't believe you the first time, I don't believe you now.
I mean, I've seen a couple of people get COVID over the summer. None of them are dead.
Fauci had it.
Yeah.
So Fauci said he only had 6 shots. He goes, I've been vaccinated 6 times. So that means he's only had 4 boosters. He's supposed to be on his 10th shot. So even he doesn't follow the CDC guidelines. Nobody brought that up. I mean, in mainstream news.
Right.
Nobody brought it up.
So are you too excited about Kamala's speech tonight?
Oh, super. I'm jacked.
You know,
Repeat it in case the mic doesn't pick up.
Oh, repeat the question. Are we excited about Kamala's speech tonight? I'm jacked. What about you?
I think Dennis Hopper said it best in Apocalypse Now. She's a warrior poet in the classic sense. So I am expecting some stunning rhetoric from her.
I hope she talks about abortion.
All night. Okay, this is the thing with her. She can deliver a scripted line. So I wouldn't expect her to go out there and fall apart. Like, she's fine if she has a teleprompter and everything's scripted and she's rehearsed and prepared her lines. She can do that. It's as soon as she goes off that script, which is why she still hasn't done an interview. They're really, it's a remarkable political experiment, what they're doing with her. Can you run someone purely as a lifestyle brand for a president of the United States? Can you reduce the presidency to a preference for Lululemon yoga pants? Can you actually elect somebody that way?
If what I experienced inside the convention hall informs us, then yes, they can. Because those people don't care about policy. They don't care about it. They project onto her everything that makes them feel good about being a Democrat.
Right. Yep. We're the good guys.
We're the good guys.
We're the good guys. That's why I talked about this on our show. The Goodman is like the really respected rep theater here in Chicago.
Yes.
And they're doing Inherit the Wind during election season, and that makes total sense. That, To Kill a Mockingbird, libs love stories that are essentially about dumb rural people being shown up by people who have an education, because that's how they see themselves.
Yep.
Look at those anti-evolution dummies. That's it. It's to go see Inherit the Wind. That's their whole worldview, and that's what the Democratic Party gives them. That's what it feeds them. And that is why you can tell them, look, your child is confused about gender. You know what? Give them permanent pills, give them drugs, give them treatments that will forever alter their physical trajectory because that makes you virtuous to do it. And to not do it makes you the dumb people in Inherit the Wind. It makes you the dumb people in To Kill a Mockingbird. It makes you those ignorant rural people if you don't put your kid in a dress. That is, we were talking about it before we went live. That, to me, is terrifying because I think more than anything I've ever seen in this country, it demonstrates how thoroughly you can propagandize people with the right formula. And I think Kamala's campaign is what decades of degrading the intellectual and cultural life of the populace have been leading up to. It's all been leading up to it. Could you have run someone with no votes who hadn't run in the primary, who people didn't even really like in 1955? No, people would not have stood for it. Would she have been able to get away with not talking to anyone? Now, the response you're going to get from a lib to that is there wouldn't have been a she running for president. Okay, all right. That is the psyop I'm talking about. People have been conditioned for decades to think in those terms, as if those are the only terms within which to discuss politics. That's it. Right down to the artists. How many, look, you go back, you look at the Beatles. A lot of people have said the Beatles were purposely elevated by intelligence agencies, and a lot of the artists of that period. You know, at first you say, what are you talking about? They were rebels, right? They were rebels. What do you mean? Well, what kind of rebels were they? Take drugs, have more sex, fashion. Did you see them come out and call for a real overthrow of the economic system? Now, to be fair, and this history is largely buried, you did have that at the activist base. You did have some of that at that base. But when you look at what really got elevated in the culture, what are the Beatles telling you? Don't you know it's going to be all right? If you go carrying pictures of Chairman Mao, you ain't going to make it with anyone anyhow. That is exactly the message they wanted put out to that rebellious youth at that time. Let it be, right? Let it be. Why? And look, they were great songwriters, but I'm making the argument the culture co-opted people with that talent and that platform in order to make sure that this youth rebellion would not go in any direction that really undermined power in a meaningful way. And now the grandchildren or children of that movement are living in a world that they built, where the idea of being left is all about those very ultimately superficial matters of lifestyle choices rather than economics. Economics is out of the conversation except in the most platitudinal way. Yes, and we have to take care of our workers. They don't propose a platform. They don't propose a class analysis. They certainly don't propose that. Kamala proposed the barest help for the working class, and she gets pilloried by the Washington Post right away. The barest help. And listen, let me be clear. I don't think she meant a word of it.
No.
I think they're trying to give the left an excuse for why they would support her.
Right.
They know that shit will never pass, even if they wanted to do it.
Joe Biden ran on the $15 minimum wage. He didn't do it. They'd even brought it up.
Right.
He also ran on public option. They never brought it up after. Nobody. The squad doesn't bring it up. Bernie Sanders doesn't bring it up. Nobody brings up the public option. And because they're not going to do it, because their donors don't want them to do it. And if they did do the public option, I think we'd have Medicare for all in like 5 years, because that would be very popular. To be able to buy into Medicare would be very popular. Right. Everybody would want to do it.
Everyone would, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, then they're going to talk about abortion. Garland Nixon just tweeted something out. He didn't make it, but he shared a meme, and I reshared it. About every time the Democrats chose not to codify Roe v. Wade when they could have. All the times they had majorities and super majorities under Clinton, under Carter. They wanted to raise money off it, and they want to have that issue to run on. In the end, it's not in their interest to give you what you want, even on the levels that libs say they care about.
Right.
The Democrats don't give a shit. They don't deliver for you. It's just amazing to me now going and watching those speeches. I just can't imagine who takes that seriously at this point. Like, who listens to that and believes a word that they're saying?
I was in a room full of 18,000 people who believe that shit yesterday. It was honest. It was hard. So the first time I went to the Democratic Convention in 2016 in Philadelphia, it was much easier because half the people there were Bernie delegates, right? So they were
like-minded.
They're people who actually were trying to get something out of their party and trying to make change.
They weren't blue.
But this time, there was no rebels, no progressives.
Because those people all left.
It's all insiders. There's like there's a thing called uncommitted delegates. Did you see that? There's like 20 of them out of 18,000. Like literally 20 or something like that. And all they want is to get a Palestinian to speak at the convention, and then they'll be back on board with the Democratic Party. They're begging for scraps. Begging for a scrap of a scrap.
Well, that's what really struck me with the Tim Walz thing, where you had all of these so-called progressives. Oh, well, she picked Walz, that's it. I'm on board.
Yeah.
Look how much less his agenda was from what you were asking for under Bernie.
Yes.
Look how much less that they're not even talking about Medicare for all, and that's all it takes for you. That's all it takes for you.
I think about the TYTs, the Crystal Balls, the Kyle Kalinskis, the people with the MSNBC contracts, shit libs, the shittiest of the shit libs.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking of.
Well, yeah, I mean, we did a whole segment about it.
Yeah.
I was honestly, I don't know why I was shocked. I always say this. Why would I be shocked at this point? But I was. I was
also.
Okay, because you're not talking about the things we used to talk about, which were a little more abstract and domestic. You're talking about a horrible, horrible genocide. Yeah, I just shared something. It was one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen. Low-key, he shared a video of a guy walking with the obviously very freshly killed body of a Palestinian boy with half his head gone. And you could see just like the flaps of skin hanging. Like the face, he almost looked alive. And then you're just seeing the hollowed out back of his head.
That's really good, thank you. Anything?
No, we're good. Thank you.
Here you go.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
We're ready?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
How do you, Shank? Look, I will give him this much credit. You got Emma Vigeland going around saying, "Oh no, they're just going to pull out the aces when the time is right. Once she's president, she's going to go and she's going to take a bold stand." Come on, man, you know that's bullshit. Now, Shank actually said that. He actually said that.
What did he say?
He actually tweeted out, "I'm not naive. I know that there's going to be no change on Israel policy when they get elected."
So he doesn't care.
Okay, at least that's fucking honest.
Well,
At least that's honest.
It's dishonest that he pretended to care about the
Yes,
person.
well, there's that.
That's
yes.
what's dishonest
There
about
is
it.
that. Right. Oh, he
That he
went.
would call people monsters who were doing it, and now he's going to vote for the monsters.
Yeah. Well, that's his whole shtick. His whole shtick is to
Yeah.
go on there and bloviate.
He's a bloviator.
He stole Rush Limbaugh's act.
That's right. You're right.
You guys, thank you guys. You guys enjoy
Thank
the
you.
rest of your day.
Okay, you too. Hey guys.
I know.
We're gonna release this as a short film.
She
My
put it
dinner
up-
with Jimmy.
She put an extra, guys. Well, that was great. I could keep eating that pizza. I love it.
That was great. Yep.
I love the deep dish pizza, and I love Lou Maldati's.
All right, do you want to wrap this stream or you want to
Yeah, we
keep
can
hanging
wrap
out?
the stream, but so
Are you two going to go and try to get an abortion?
I might try to get an abortion.
I don't think I
he's
have
gonna
time. I got to be there at 5.
Oh, okay. So no abortion today.
Keaton's probably watching right now.
All right.
He knows where I am.
So just say goodbye one more time, gentlemen, to the
I mean,
camera.
maybe actually because the march is going to end at a point, and I assume they're going to be out there. So maybe once the march reaches its terminus, we could go over there.
Oh, it was like he was challenged to use the word terminus.
What's
Who can use terminus today?
I have an app. Listen, man. I got no bragging rights, as many of our sticklers who watch the show know. I have a reader's vocabulary. I always read a lot, but nobody in my environment used the kinds of words I was reading. So I mispronounce a lot of things because I got used to saying them the way that I thought they should be said.
Oh.
And I just didn't hear anyone say it, and it just got in my
It's not
way of
Camus.
saying
like
it.
how do you
Yeah,
It's Camus.
yeah. Well, that I know.
I was reading a book by Camus when I said Camus in conversation, and my friend Greg Warren never let me forget it.
Well, you see, by the time I would have even known who Camus was, I knew people who would have known how to pronounce that. But when I was young enough to be learning words like terminus, nobody around me would have used a word like that. So there are a lot, I mean, that's obvious how you would say it when you read that on the page. But there are a lot of other words because of the history of English and how many sources it borrowed from. The spelling is just all over the place.
Well, I tell people, I used to say this a lot more often. I grew up in a really blue collar, navy blue collar is what I call it, and we had a bar in my basement because everybody put a bar in their basement, even though my dad wasn't a drinker.
Right, yeah.
But we didn't have a bookshelf in my entire house. And I remember when I realized that one day, and I said, Mom, we didn't have a bookshelf in our house, did we? And she says, we had a bookshelf. I said, where? She said, in the basement closet. It's where we kept the popular mechanics magazines. That's not a bookshelf, it's a magazine shelf. And it's in the closet? Who puts a bookshelf in the closet? In the basement. So Chicago, everybody has basements. And it's like this big room. And so we weren't allowed to go upstairs. We didn't go in our living room. That was for company. We were always in the basement. My mom had a stove. A lot of people did that. We had a fridge and a stove, and we had a sink, and we could all fit in that room to eat dinner.
Right.
We couldn't fit in the kitchen upstairs to eat dinner. There wasn't enough room. So we lived in our basement, basically. And a lot of people did that. They lived in their basements. But yeah, my dad was president of a big company.
Oh, good.
So is this, I got the impression from the way you asked it, so is this like people trying to say he grew up wealthy or something?
Yeah, my dad was president of a company.
Jimmy, where'd you go to college?
Okay. What's funny about that, because we come from similar kind of backgrounds. The idea that you would think that one of these guys, which was very typical in that kind of neighborhood, who does some construction and contracting work on the side, is the president of a company, shows how fucking privileged you have to be.
Yes.
That you don't understand what that actually would be.
Right.
One of my best friends, man, same deal. Irish Catholic family, 8 kids to raise. Same thing, moving company, and all the brothers worked in the moving company. This is a very typical story if you're from a blue-collar neighborhood.
I drank powdered milk till I was in 5th grade. Powdered milk.
Wow.
I remember my mom used to say, I would say, Mom, we're poor, right? Because we're living in a basement.
Right, yeah.
Drinking powdered milk. And I didn't even have my own shoes until I was like in 8th grade. I used to have to wear hand-me-down shoes. But anyway, I was like, Mom, we're poor, right? She goes, no, we're middle class. That's what she would say. I go, Mom, I'm drinking powdered milk. What are the poor people drinking? Just the powder.
Oh,
Anyway.
who was it? Was it Hemingway, or was it Fitzgerald who said, the American working class think they're temporarily embarrassed millionaires?
That's it.
But really quickly, where'd you go to college?
I went to Illinois State.
What's it called?
It was called Illinois State. I went there for 3 years, And I remember I went to the University of Illinois, which is in Champaign. I went to see a basketball game. Illinois State was playing, and our team that year was really good. No, I went to see a hockey game. That's what I went to see. So I went to see a hockey game, and our team was winning, beating the University of Illinois. They were in the Big Ten. It was a big deal. And so we were winning, and the University of Illinois students started to chant, "If you can't go to school, go to state." And I was like, oh, that really hurt. I was like, come on. So I only went there for 3 years, and I wasn't really a motivated student, and I decided I was going to take off a year. I was tired of being broke. I wanted to have money, take girls out and things. And so I got a job driving a forklift. Now my brother at the same company, just a few years earlier, maybe 2 years earlier, got in a forklift accident and cut his leg off right above the knee. And then I went and got a job.
That seems like the career
like, that's what I should do.
me.
I should go do that. So I went and got it. I'm like, well, what's the chances of it happening twice? So I went and got a job there. And after the first day, I got out the college catalog and I was like, I got to go back to fucking college. I can't do this. And I just saw the handwriting on the wall, and I'm like, I can't do this. And I ended up working there for like 2 semesters. So but I got out the college catalog, and Columbia College now it's like $40,000 a year, and it's an arts college and shit.
Right.
And but back then it was like a blue collar arts college, right? Mm-hmm. You were taught by professionals. It was super affordable. It was like $1,200 a year. It wasn't.
Right.
It was so, and they took all my credits. So that's why I went there. It wasn't a university. It was Columbia College. I think it still is Columbia College. And but I wanted to get a degree and get on with my life. Well, I figured out I could write advertising. I didn't know that you could do that as a job. I had no role models in my life. That nobody in my life did anything I wanted to do. And so consequently, you don't grow up thinking you can do things. I didn't even know they were available. So I took this. There was a class in advertising, and it was copywriting. I'm like, I'll take that. And then I was like, I could write commercials. I could write copy. I could write print ads. I had a knack for it. I'm like, I could do this for a living. And so I graduated. I got my degree, and I started doing comedy. And back then, in 1989, they just started paying you right away. So I started getting paid to do comedy right away. Right. I was making as much doing comedy as I would make all week doing brickwork. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what? I'm just doing comedy. 15 minutes, 30 minutes a night. I'm making as much as I do. 8 hours a day slaving in the sun doing brickwork. I never looked back. I was like, this is So I did that for about 4.5 years, and I moved to LA in 1995. So that's the story. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the pizza. 4,000 people watching us eat pizza, huh? Come on.
Yeah, all right.
Nice.
It was very good. If you're here, go to Illuminati's, as I call it.
Aha. Show them the sign.
The sauce so good, it's a conspiracy.
Write that one right there. All right, adios. You can end it.
Okay, thanks, buddy.